soaking while you choking on mucus.
What? Oh wow! You know everybody's into the sea moss now with the pandemic. Now everybody like
sea moss, and I had it soaking in the water, and I was like, yeah, I got my sea moss soaking while you choking on that mucus.
what?
It's true though. Like, have you ever been sick and like your throat has so much mucus that you almost choke on it? It's gross.
Yeah, when I was drinking a lot of milk, had I known a long time ago that milk was a contributor to mucus, I would have stopped a long time ago when I was in the Bronx, growing up as an adolescent and becoming a pizza face. Like I had so much acne, like on my face and my chest and my back. Had I known what dairy, how bad dairy does the body, I would have been stopped that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that all that mucus, yeah, you're right. And like that's so cool that you can MC your way to creating an awareness for folks, because that's the thing. Like a lot of people that are vegan, they if they're not strong in their space, they can become offended by the people that are like, you vegan for what? And vegan's not even real food. Talk to me about your journey towards veganism. Where did it start? How did you become vegan?
I became vegan in 2017 in January, and my partner at the time introduced me to a documentary called Food Inc. And yeah, that was the one that did it for me. Like literally, I went vegan the next day, like overnight. I know, it's wild. I even started like tracking my results and like how I was feeling in my phone. You know, I have like documents of like how I was feeling. And I remember on like day 4, I was like, this vegan thing is great. I just remember writing that. And then like after a week, I stopped writing in it. But it was like seeing the structural violence, because I saw it as violence. And like I didn't necessarily see that when I was eating meat growing up, because I've eaten meat my whole life. Like I used to make fun of vegetarians. Like I had a friend who was vegetarian in college, and I used to be like, all you eat is grass. Like I was that person. So I understand where that comes from. But it was like when you see it in that way, like when it's painted out in a political sense, I was like, wow, I can't sit here and call myself like a humanist, right? Or somebody who cares about like I'm pro-life or whatever that means. Like I just cared about people getting justice. But then when I saw the way animals were treated, I was like, that's not fair.
Right.
To see them truly suffering was like, that's what did it for me, because it was like, I excused it a lot. Like I remember studying abroad in Samoa, and a pig was slaughtered in front of us, but you know, that's their culture. So for me, I was able to kind of like justify it because it was a cultural thing. And I think that's what a lot of people do in America and like in our culture, the Black and brown community. Like we will sit there and justify these things because it's a cultural thing. And people don't want to go vegan because they're like, I'm not going to have access to my culture anymore. I'm going to lose a part of my culture because of the way I eat. And I'm like, all that is BS. So yeah, I did it for the pigs, because the pigs were the ones that were like, oh my God, like I felt so bad. And the cows too. Like just the fact that, you know, the way cows are inseminated is very similar to just rape. Like they are being raped. They're literally forcibly impregnated so that you can just take their milk, and then you take their kid from them. It's just too much. Like it kills me.
Yeah. It becomes this thing where you start to see, like, you know, we're so we're so selfish in our ways in terms of, you know, our palate and food, what's in it for me, that if you don't see this stuff and you don't connect with it, it's hard to come out and say, you know what, this is really bad. Like food is not food. The food that you think is food, it's not food. It is violence. And then when folks say something like, and vegan food isn't food, what is your response to that?
I'm like, that's wild. Like, what are you talking about? I'm always confused because if you think about it, what food does the animals you eat? All vegans are doing is just cutting out the third party. Like we're not eating recycled protein. Like if you want to talk about protein, because you're like, oh, well, vegans need protein, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, where does your animal get their protein from? Where does the buffalo get its protein? Where does the cow get its protein? They get it from plants. So technically all we're doing is cutting out the middleman. Right? We're not harming anybody because we understand that we don't need to harm anybody to get our needs met, unlike of the world. So that's all vegans are doing. So it's like, what is food though? Like food is what's supposed to nourish your body. And there's just so much science behind plants. Like there's a reason why it takes 20 minutes to digest fruit and it takes months to digest meat. And like acquiring 15 or more pounds of like unprocessed meat in their colon. Like, let's talk about that, because that's not food. Food wouldn't do that to you.
And food is not supposed to kill you. Food is supposed to give you life. And it just seems like as the decades, the African Americans have the highest disparity of health ailments in terms of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancer. If you think back into school, I had this discussion with another guest. You can identify those folks that were obese or unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? In this day and age, you're looking at 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds that are unhealthy, and they have these health ailments. So it's in the SAD diet, the standard American diet that we're consuming, and we really need to do justice in our community and teach folks that this is really not the way you're supposed to eat. You got to put veggies on your plate. Number one.
It's hard too, because it's like, you're not really taught that. I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, I was like, I remember I grew up in poverty, and like my mom,
Me too.
We're from the Bronx, like not even to buy into that stereotype, but like we didn't have access to like all these things. And I remember for dinner, like sometimes I would just eat a waffle with butter on top, or like toast, or like eggs, just fried eggs or boiled eggs. And I used to feel like really bad because I'm like, wow, I can't even afford meat, which is supposed to be like the staple. Like I was attached to meat. And I started seeing that when I went vegan, how attached to meat I was, where it was like, I couldn't eat anything if my plate didn't have meat on it. Right. And I was like, that is like a psychological thing at this point. And you can like unlearn that when you go vegan. And I thought about how, initially I did go vegan for the animals, but then I started to learn more about how it benefited me as someone who comes from a family that has a lot of diabetes. My dad is diabetic, but my grandmother, who passed away from my mom's side, was also diabetic. And I remember getting a blood test done in school, and the doctors were like, your blood sugar is very high. Like, you have diabetes in your family? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, you need to be careful. And I totally ignored them. I was just like, whatever. Like, I'm going to still go eat chocolate later today. Like, I don't care. Because I didn't see any visible effects of my health at the time. And I think that that's what it is, that until people actually see, like, their fucking skin, but their skin deteriorate, right? It's very frustrating because, like, why does it take for you to be on your deathbed for you to care?
Right. And a lot of times that's when people are making that change, when something is happening to them that it's a life death situation, and then they're paying attention to their health. Sugar is a killer, in whatever form. It could be agave. I was having that conversation. Like any form of sugar. Like sugar is so detrimental to our health and our teeth and our bones. And then this is the stuff we shove down our children's throat as soon as their first birthday. And people don't really understand that this is a psychological, we've been brainwashed into this. You're not bad how sugar is, and we continue to give this to our children, not really knowing that this is not good. Talk to me about your book, The Boogie Down Vegan.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue. So the book was designed for friends and family who were reaching out to me during my vegan journey, asking like, how do I go vegan? What do I do? What do I eat? I was getting a lot of inquiries, and it was kind of overwhelming. And I remember just posting. I always posted pictures of my food. I've always loved cooking. And when I went vegan, I just fell more in love with it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a book, but I'm not just going to make a book with recipes. I want to do something like legit, where it's like a vegan Bible. It's like the vegan manual. You open this up and it tells you like, why did I go vegan? Why should you go vegan? What does vegan mean? How do you do it? Like, what are the basics? What vitamins and minerals do you need? Like B12, where do you get it? I was like hyperlinking different like websites and stuff on how to like get stuff and things like that. And the whole premise of it was for low income people, because I come from the Bronx. So I wanted to make something that they're meals that are like $5 or less. Like there's nothing in the book that would cost you more than $5 to make. And to this day, I only eat like meals that cost about that much. So that was the point of the book. I started off kind of explaining like what alternatives you have, like an alternative to butter, which could be anything from avocado to like a soy-based butter or something like that.
I love avocado.
I love it. Avocado toast. People need to stop sleeping on that.
Exactly.
But yeah, I would do that. I would kind of list all of I did like a cheat sheet in the beginning. So in the beginning of the book, you'll see a cheat sheet where it's like quick, you look at it and it tells you like what can you swap out? Because that's a great way to start transitioning, even if you don't want to jump right into being vegan, but you want to start swapping out something for egg, or you want to find a replacement for milk. You want to find a replacement for cheese or chocolate, like whatever it is, like it's in the book. I broke it down in that sense and kind of tried to keep like the cultural like premise of like Puerto Rican and what that means to me. So I have a lot of like soul foods in there, but also a lot of foods from my culture. And then I kind of diversify the palate a little bit because my favorite food is Asian food.
Yes.
I also love like my food from my culture, but biased. So
Spanish food, definitely. I love Spanish food, Asian food, Indian food. Yes. I love Ethiopian food. I like, oh my God, Ethiopian food is like so awesome. We have, Tammy, agave is different from sugar cane. At the land of Kush, we used to use a lot of agave in our drinks. And I used to drink a lot of our drinks at the Land of Kush, of course, because we make the fresh lemonade with the fresh lemons and the fresh brewed tea and sorrel from the hibiscus leaves and ginger from real ginger root. And my holistic doctor, that agave was generating or causing candida in my system. So it's kind of like I had to scale back from that agave. So agave, yes, for the blood sugar levels is better than some sugars and sugar cane, but sugars are all sugars. Right. You know, so you still have to do all of that in moderation. So thank you for bringing that up, Tammy. And I'm definitely not the dietitian expert. Right. I just know consuming a lot of agave in my body, because everybody's body is different, cause candida. So
an example of how like some things that are vegan are not always going to benefit you. I like to use date syrup because that's just like,
dates are good. Yeah, my husband loves to cook with date. Like when he makes oatmeal, it's dates. Dates, opposed to raisins. My daughter likes raisins over dates, of course, because raisins are smaller. But yeah, that's the study in it. Studying and understanding the different foods and how your body responds to them. I love beans. I can't eat beans a lot because I got that gas problem. So I got to take something after it, some holistic remedy, so I don't get all of this bloated gas. You know what I'm saying? But I love beans, so I have to watch that. We have someone else. Yes, thank you, Tammy. Thank you for tuning in and loving the show. I'm showing everyone where to get Darriel's The Boogie Down Vegan ebook, and I have to get it myself because we need this. And you're speaking from a low cost perspective, which is needed because a lot of people assume that vegan is very expensive. Right. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, beans. That's not, especially if you buy these things in the dry form and you cook it in bulk. It's not expensive. Tell me some of the items that you make for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I've like changed my diet up and down. Like I was doing a fruit cleanse not too long ago, but before all that, I was eating oatmeal for breakfast like every day. And I was putting peanut butter on it or like almond butter and drizzling that on top with some bananas. And then I was like, let me get fancy and throw little chocolate chips in there, some cacao, maybe some chia seeds, whatever. You can really do a lot. Like I was eating pancakes. Like I really wanted to still have what I was already eating. There's a bunch of smoothies in the book too, just to kind of like jumpstart your day. I think starting with fruit in the beginning of the day is great because it just like helps you kind of like empty your bowels, which is great for people who are constipated.
Yes.
Start light. Don't start too heavy. I think their heaviest meal should be like midday, like lunch.
Right.
Have like quinoa with like some tomato curry kind of chickpeas. Like I'll make something like that, or I'll make like the standard rice and beans with some plantains and avocado, mushroom pasta, gluten-free, obviously. Things like that, like trying to get as healthy as possible without feeling like you're limiting yourself. Because I think that's another thing for people too. It's like, oh my God, like you're already trying to be so healthy. And then on top of that, you want to be gluten-free and all these other things. It's still possible. It's just about how you're seasoning your food. At the end of the day, it all comes down to that.
Some sauce is the boss. And the seasons is
other things like texture and stuff, which I mean, I'm not huge on texture. Like I could get with anything really, but there's some people who want that texture, which is fine, but the sauce is the boss. Like that's where it's at.
It's the seasoning. Let's answer Kelly's questions. Where can I buy the book? I put the link up. Kelly, the link is in the chats, but is it the PayPal? I just put this up, so they have to type payhip.com /B.
They could just Google the Boogie Down Vegan, and the book will be the first thing that pops up.
Okay, so Google the Boogie Down Vegan. Everybody Google the Boogie Down Vegan, and the book will pop up for you to purchase. And if you're not following Darriel, the petty vegan MC who like hit us with some bars when she first got on, then you need to be following her. So there goes the Boogie Down Vegan, and then we're following Darriel at Petty Vegan MC on IG and at the Boogie Down Vegan Puerto Rican. All right. Yes. Awesome. We got some more comments coming in. What are your thoughts about the rise of African Americans and Latinos in the vegan movement? Now, I see a lot of articles about African Americans being the fastest growing demographic in veganism. What about our Latino community? And I've been talking to our Latino community. I've had a couple of vegan guests on the show, and encouraged the start of Latin vegan groups, because I'm the executive director of the Black Vegetarian Society of Maryland. And, Black, that's the rainbow. When you put all the colors together, you get Black, and that's the rainbow. And we need to represent our Latino community in there as well. So we need a Latin group. But what are your thoughts on the movement in general?
I love it. I'm hyped because this is kind of like us going back to our roots. I feel like this is ancestral eating. Like, a lot of people kind of have their disagreements with that, and they're like, no, we weren't always eating that way. But realistically, we were, especially like people from the continent. Like, that is kind of how we're designed to eat. Other parts of the world are different. I think it's great because we are the most vulnerable populations that need to be arming ourselves. Like, we need to be building our immunity with this type of diet, especially with things like COVID, right? Like, this is the perfect time to be having these kind of conversations amidst a whole pandemic. Like, this is a global thing. And I think obviously, like, some people are like, no, veganism is not going to be the one solution. No, it's not, but it's a great preventative measure.
Yes.
I'm preventing myself from getting diabetes, right? Like, I'm not going to live till 60 and one day wake up and I'm like, oh, I have diabetes now. No, that's not how it works. That's just not how it works. Right. You can literally do many things with a diet like this. And, there's a difference between plant-based and vegan as well. So if you're talking about whole food plant-based diet, right. There, because just to be vegan, that's still the Impossible Burger. That's still right. That's not necessarily going to help you build your immunity. And now, if you're a whole food plant-based vegan, where you're eating quinoa, you're eating alkaline foods, you're eating foods that are not processed, not hybrid, beautiful. That is what all of us are striving to do.
You answered my next question about what were your thoughts on, because when I started becoming vegan, and my husband is the main cook, and I like to cook. I just don't like bulk cooking, but he loves to cook. So he cooks a lot of the grains and the all that type of stuff. But of course, coming from where I'm coming from, I like, the fast food and the burgers and, Taco Bell and the KFC, all that type of junk food. So of course I gravitated towards some of this stuff. And being sedentary, I gained weight, especially after I had my daughter. I gained weight. And now during the pandemic, I've lost weight, which was cool because I'm focusing on that alkaline diet, just strict whole foods, healthy foods, not too much processed, and it does make a difference. Vegan, if you're going after commercial foods that have a lot of sodium and a lot of processes in it, and especially if you're sitting around, you're going to become healthy. But if you're dealing with your whole foods and you're getting your meditation and your exercise, and you're going to feel a lot better. So I'm so glad that you brought up that point, because we don't want to go from one extreme to the next just because we're taking out animal products and then, going after vegan products and thinking that, the Impossible Burger is going to help. I had a friend that went to the doctor, and his high blood pressure went through the roof. All of a sudden, Impossible and Beyond Burgers.
Exactly. Like, I've been vegan for 3 years. What do you mean? You've been eating. What did you think was going to happen? But I think they're essential. I think that some vegans are like upset with the Impossible Burger because they're like, why are you feeding people, GMO stuff? Or like, I mean, it's not necessarily GMO, but just feeding people things that are obviously highly processed. And I get that, but I also think that that's a great way to help people transition meat. Like, you can't just jump from one extreme, again, like you said, to the next. So having the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger there, or the Beyond Sausage, those things, people will eventually like be able to cut that out of their diet and find a plant-based alternative, like a mushroom or something else, right? So it's a good steps and levels. Yeah.
steps and levels, and then being educated on it. You're right. So, because I have an Impossible Burger once in a while, I have Beyond Burger. I was, just at a restaurant the other day and ordered a Beyond Burger. I think it's just being moderate and understand, like, I'm not going to go from eating this burger every day, and then it's going to be that burger because it's vegan. No, we still got to get those whole foods into our diet. The fruits. Yeah. People sleep on fruits. Are you kidding me?
I think that's like the majority of my diet at this point. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm like fruits, vegetables, and lots of leafy greens. I love leafy greens, and your nut seeds if you're not allergic to those things, and your beans and legumes and your grains. There's so many. You know what? We have so many more options available to us than any meat eater can even imagine.
Over 6,000 edible plants. So it's like, what do you mean you're limited? I laugh.
Like, what do you eat? I'm like food, real food.
Like eating shrimp and like the same type of meats all day, every day. Like, you want to get creative and try a vegan, shrimp alternative. I think it's amazing that do this kind of stuff. Like, y'all should be like, oh, what? Like, vegans are on some type of time. Like, how? Like,
I had a nice shrimp. There was a shrimp wrap. There's a restaurant down the block from us, Refocus Vegan. I had a nice shrimp wrap from them, and it was like amazing. And they have this like loaded mat that my daughter loves. So yeah, it's just so much out there. Yes, David, we miss you too. I'm one of the co-organizers and co-founders of Vegan Soul Fest, the biggest vegan festival in Baltimore. And because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to have this festival. And we've had 10,000 plus people come out to this. So it's kind of bothering me because we're probably not going to be able to do this year, especially not at that magnitude. So David was one of our vendors, and they have some slamming vegan food that they sell. And yes, David, we were trying to figure something out, even if it's something virtual on the platform. So we will definitely reach out to everyone and figure out what we're going to do about this Vegan Soul Fest, because I miss it too. Thank you for that.
I feel like that's heaven for me, like being at a vegan festival. I've been to and I'm just like, that is where I want to be. Like, if that could be an island or a country, that's what I want to be all day, every day, like good vibes. Like, you can just trust that whatever you're going to eat that day, you don't got to worry about it. You don't got to read no labels.
Exactly. Talk to me about your lifestyle coaching. You're a vegan lifestyle coach.
So yeah, I got a certification to be a vegan lifestyle coach through the Main Street Vegan Academy, where I think I recommend it to everyone who's interested in kind of starting their own business and wants to get into coaching and things like that.
Where did they go? I'm putting that in Main Street.
Main Street Vegan Academy.
Okay.
And you should.
Do they have a website?
They do.
Okay. I'm gonna search it while you talk. So I'm gonna zoom into you and I'm gonna search it online. So talk to us about the coaching.
But yeah, the Main Street Vegan Academy, we kind of went through a bunch of classes and kind of got the foundation of veganism, the history of it, which I kind of didn't really know. Like, there's a lot of biblical references to veganism in the Bible, and we really we zeroed in on that. And now I've been coaching people, kind of helping them figure out how to start that process. I just started a 30-day fruit cleanse challenge on Instagram.
Okay.
Of women who have been doing the challenge, and I'm doing it with them, which is great. I think having that kind of support is what I want to do as a coach, is just to make people feel like they have that support. And again, working with people with what they can provide. I'm not the type of person that is going to charge an arm and a leg for something. For some people, I'm just more than willing to just help them with resources. So I always refer them to my book, because a lot of what they're going to ask me off rip is going to be all the stuff that's in the book, right?
Right.
So that's the first thing I say is listen, if this is what you want, purchase the book.
Get the book.
The book is it's not long at all. And the only thing you need to really read is the first 2 pages, because it kind of breaks down the basics. And then the rest is just recipes. So if you kind of do that, and then when you have questions about that stuff, we can reconvene, because I don't jump into my consultations with people. I give free consultations, but I'm not going to spend a bunch of time talking to people about stuff that's in that book.
Right.
It's the Bible, so I'm going to sell it. It's the vegan holy grail here. It's a handbook. So I tell that to people, and then, I kind of meet with them about different things. I'll help people do meal plans. Some people just don't know what to make. And I think that's probably the hardest thing. There's the issue of where do I shop? But then once you get past that, it's okay, now what do I make? I'm picky. What do I do? And I'm like, okay, let's come up with a list of stuff you like, and then figure out how we can make it taste even better. So it's a lot of that, like very intimate kind of consultations where I'm meeting with people to talk about that, setting goals with them, keeping them kind of, into a community. I want to set people up where, for success. So I have like this group of women now who are trying to transition to being vegan. They're not all vegan, but now they have a group chat where they can all talk to each other. So that's another part of my strategy, is like bringing people together, not just with me, but beyond that. Like, how can I extend this support to other people in the Bronx, though, or like other
absolutely. I mean,
they're not even in the Bronx. They're in like California or like Mexico or random places. So pretty cool that we have like the internet to connect people, because I think that makes this way easier. Like, it makes my job so much simpler.
Are you familiar with the Black Veg Fest that goes on in the Bronx and in Brooklyn with Amawale?
At that, and it got canceled because of COVID. So I'm sad.
Yeah, that's my people. Amawale is doing really good with the event, and we've been each year that he's had it. We haven't been to the Bronx events, and I was planning to do that this year myself, to get out to the Bronx Black Veg Fest. So yeah, hopefully that'll come, because his events are amazing too.
Yeah, it's really, like down the block from where I lived. Like, I lived.
Get out.
They were planning to do it. It was on Alexander Avenue, and I lived on Alexander. I was like, what?
Wow. Yeah. Well, definitely stay connected, because they're doing some big things. And yeah. So I like what they're doing.
Great.
What would be some if you can think of like some main messages to send to the viewers right now, before we decide to jump off, something that you can really think that you can MC it if you want. I mean, being from the Bronx, I'm not surprised you got the MCing skill, but something that a couple of things that you want our viewers to leave with and understand about this lifestyle, whether they're already in it, whether they're thinking about being in it, or whether they're like, man, forget y'all, I ain't doing all that crazy stuff. Like, what message would you send? And while Darriel, the petty MC, vegan MC, is thinking about that, please subscribe to NaijhaSpeaks.com, where you can see this video replay. You can share with your friend, and other interviews that I've had with fabulous guests. Also, Vegan Restaurant Week starts next Saturday, August 1st, and we're asking restaurants to sign up in the Maryland area. It is free for the first time. The registration is free due to the COVID pandemic. We understand restaurants are maybe struggling, and we're making this free. We're going to promote you if you are offering vegan options. All you have to go to is mdveganeats.com. Tell your restaurant friends, your favorite restaurants, they need to join in and get those plant-based options on their menu. And if you're looking for some fresh salads to make, you can go to bvsmd.org and opt into the email, and you'll get a 20 fresh salad recipe booklet. We want to shout out to Veg Fund, A World Fed World, Women Funders, and Animal Rights, and Eat the Change as sponsors, along with Jane Unchained News, for allowing us access to our platform to have this discussion as well. What do you say, Darriel?
I would say two things. The first one is that with the state of the world right now, and the kind of violence that's happening against melanated people, being vegan is a great way to reclaim your power. A lot of people don't understand that you vote not just at the polls, but you vote with your dollar. And
yes,
a lot of these companies that we're funding, right? We're literally funding KFC, McDonald's. They all have a benefit, and they have hands in prison labor. Whether they're making, their products, their labels, whatever, like these companies are actually affiliated with the prison industrial complex and mass incarceration, which affects Black and brown people. So if you're a person of color or a melanated person, I would encourage you to think about veganism as a weapon of social change and as a form of resilience. Because after I went vegan for the animals, I started to kind of tap in more to like how it was connected to my own oppression as a woman, right?
Yes.
Me power over my body. So I'm speaking to men, but I'm speaking to women as well. Like,
yes,
what's going into your body, like birth control, which, that's a whole different topic, but
right.
Being cognizant of like what you're putting in your body, because historically Black and brown women have been experimented on. Our wombs have been experimented on. Our wombs have been violated. And so this is me reclaiming my power, because like I get to choose what I'm putting in my body. I know where it's coming from. I'm cooking it, and I know who's cooking it. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, no. Because as a matter of fact, myself and Jane was on here. Jane Velez, she's the owner, founder of the Jane Unchained News, and she's been a journalist for years. She questions, all the time, if we know that these companies are supporting a political side that we're against, why do we continue to fund these companies and continue to buy their products and eat? Now, it could be two sides. I mean, it could be cost. I mean, things are easy access, intentionally easy accessible in our communities. That's why it's planted in our communities. But we are empowered now. Right. We can make decisions. There's all type of information out there, but we have to awaken. We have to be awake and solve this problem and stop funding this if we want change. So you speak a great point.
Yeah, we have to just kind of look deeper at it, you know what I mean? And especially because everything is kind of like repeating itself. If history is repeating itself so much, let's look at it from a different lens. Look at it from a vegan lens. Look at it from like, okay, if we don't have access to healthy food, right? And that's what we feel is stopping us. Why don't we have access to that? Is it really just because we come from poverty? Why do we come from poverty? Why do communities like that are congested and they all look the same? Like that is something that's crazy.
It's intentional. It's institutionalized. It's systemic racism, and we have to wake up. But a lot of times people are there's a lot of things going on in everyone's world. So there's a lot of work that yourself, and all the organizations that are pushing this message have to do. It's not going to be an easy task, but with all of us working together and on our own, we can do it. But it's going to be hard work. There's a lot of penetration that has to happen because we're dealing with a lot of different layers of trauma, mental illness, substance abuse. It's just so much and fighting the system. But we can do it if we can get one person at a time or family at a time. We can make this happen. And I think we're doing great. We're always in the news about how African Americans are adopting this lifestyle, whether it's for the food or the animals, or you start with the animals and you learn about the food, or you start with the food and you learn about the animals. We are in this movement. We are visible. We've been here. I mean, the Rastafarians been doing this for years. The Ital Vital lifestyle. And it's not that complicated. What other messages do you have?
Yeah, we're playing catch up. But the other one is not to really think about this being for your family. I feel like, family and culture is a big limitation besides money. But money is more of like a misconception because I've been in situations where I had like $5 and I made it work. So it's possible. You just have to be informed. You have to want to be informed as well. Like we are in the age of internet, right? This is the era of information. So there's really no reason why people shouldn't know what vegan is. Like you're seeing ads all the time. We're being bombarded through TV where, if you're at Burger King, they have a vegan burger. Like you're seeing the plant symbol. It's there. It's there. So your subconscious is programming itself to kind of like take that information, but your conscious mind is just like, what is vegan? But the cultural dynamic of it, like if you live with family and they're obviously, very opposed to this lifestyle because they're worried about you, like do your research so that you can educate them and like don't allow them to like stop you from being vegan if that's what you want to do. And if you fall off, don't be too hard on yourself. Like I've had my moments where I wasn't intentionally like falling off, but like I accidentally ate some stuff and I felt really bad about it. But I'm like, it happens. Like our body's constantly morphing and cleaning itself. Like it's okay. As long as you get back on that route, or if you're like cutting out meat every now and then, you're truly making a difference in an animal's life, in your community's life, even in your life by not having it every day, right? You're in the environment. There's environmental benefits of it as well. But yeah, I would just say to question everything. Like this goes beyond veganism. Just question everything right now because what we're being told isn't the truth. Like all of it is not the truth. And the media kind of has a big say in that. So I appreciate you having this podcast because we're educating people from a real authentic place, not like information we're getting from like these foul sources. So I'm just so happy that you exist and that you have the community of people that listen to what you have to say, even if they challenge it. That's the beauty of this thing, is that we have ideas. We're all human. So we're just trying to learn at the end of the day.
Yeah, each one teach one, and this is all about community. And for those listening out there that are curious or still questioning this lifestyle, there's a guide. There's a guide for us, by us, created by the fabulous Tracy McQuirter, the African American Vegan Starter Guide. And you can get that at AfricanAmericanVeganStarterGuide.com, or you can go to BVSMD.org. It's scrolling across the screen, BVSMD.org, and click on Veg Starter Guide, and you can download it for free. And it talks talks about how to deal with family. It has recipes in there. It has interviews from prominent Black vegans. We also, if you're Latino community, PCRM has a Latin guide that, you know, they have one in Spanish. If you need the Spanish language, you can go to PCRM.org and download that guide as well. So there's so many resources out there. Yes, Latrice, we appreciate it. We're going to continue to have this type of content and bring folks like Darriel out to talk about these issues, because, you know, we need to be the representation of this message to our community, because we understand our community better than anyone else. So with that said, I'm going to highlight Darriel again, and we have to make sure that we get her book. It is the Boogie Down Vegan ebook, and you can Google it. Google is your friend.
It really is.
You know, just make sure you're looking at all the pages and, you know, you're assessing everything, because there's so much information out there. But Google the Boogie Down Vegan, or you can go to the payhip.com/BQTMJ, and you can get her book. And also, you should be following Darriel at Petty Vegan MC on Instagram, and at the Boogie Down Vegan Puerto Rican. And Darriel, as soon as all of this pandemic is over and everybody's feeling safer, when I get back out there, whether you're in the Bronx or Brooklyn, whatever, we're going to connect face to face. And I'm so looking forward to it. If there isn't anything else, the African American Vegan guide, please. Yes, African American Vegan Starter Guide.com, or just go to B for the Black Veg Society of Maryland, BVSMD.org, and go to Veg Starter Guide, and you can download it there. Okay, and it's made by the fabulous Tracy McQuirter, by Any Greens Necessary. I appreciate you taking the time out to talk with me, Darriel, and until we meet and talk again, enjoy the rest of your day.
Beautiful. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. If you want to